Hello to all my subscribers, disciples, and students. This is your Master GongSun, back with another episode of Taoism as applied to the news. Today's story: U.S. tourists arrested for landing on forbidden Indian tribal island. Police say man landed on island in attempt to meet the Sentinelese people, a tribe untouched by the industrial world. Well, let's see what happened here. I don't think that it is going to be a happy ending. Indian police said on Thursday they had arrested a U.S. tourist who sneaked onto a highly restricted island carrying a coconut and a can of Diet Coke to a tribe untouched by the industrial world. Now, I won't even try to pronounce his name. He's 24 years old, set foot on the restricted territory of North Sentinel, part of India's Andaman Islands, in an attempt to meet the Sentinelese people, who are believed to number only about 150. All outsiders, Indians and foreigners alike, are banned from traveling within 3 miles or 5 kilometers of the island to protect the indigenous people from outside diseases and to preserve their way of life. The American citizen was presented before the local court after his arrest and is now on a 3-day remand for further interrogation. Satellite photographs show a coral reef-fringed island stretching to some 6 miles at its widest point, with a thick forest and white sand beaches. The Sentinelese last made international headlines in 2018 after they killed John Allen Chow, 27, an American missionary who landed illegally on their beach. Chow's body was not recovered, and there were no investigations over his death because of the Indian law prohibiting anyone from going to the island. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. Now, in Taoism, we believe in something called 自然. For those of you who have been following me and paying attention to my videos, we know what this means, right? It means naturalness, right? It means not forcing someone. I mean, it's one thing to introduce someone to Christianity, for example, but it's another to go there with Bibles in hand and then insisting they read the Bible, right? So, I mean, poor guy, but he should have known that was what was going to happen. I'm sure he did some research on the Sentinelese and he knew how hostile they are to outsiders, especially if you land illegally on their beach without permission. So I'm not really sure of the details behind this missionary and what he did and his eventual fate. But I do know that in Taoism, we really don't do things like that. We don't force ourselves onto other people. We only introduce them to our ideas and our culture and our religion if they ask. So if they didn't ask, then we would not. Taoists would not be introducing Taoism to other people without them asking for it first. So that is one Taoist law of the universe that this man had violated. It's not very natural of him to go illegally onto their beach without being invited. So, too bad about his fate. But I'm not surprised that's what happened. Same thing here. I mean, this guy has been very lucky. I mean, I read somewhere that the Sentinelese will actually kill strangers on sight. They're, at the very least, very unfriendly and downright, at worst, downright hostile to foreigners. All right, so what happened here? So about this guy here, Polyakov. He landed briefly for about 5 minutes, left the offerings on the shore, collected sand samples, and recorded a video before returning to his boat. A preview of his GoPro camera footage showed his entry and landing into the restricted North Sentinel Island. And I understand why, because they are an isolated tribe. We don't want to cause them trouble, and we don't want to introduce them to our diseases. So it makes sense, right? That's actually a very Taoist way of doing it. the current rules, right? But those who forcibly violate the current rules, I'm not surprised that they would not have a happy ending. Let's just say that to put it in very mild terms here. All right, so he was arrested, and then what happened? See here, this just reinforced what I said. The Sentinelese, whose language and customs remain a mystery to outsiders, shun all contact and have a record of hostility to anyone who tries to get close. A photograph issued by the Indian Coast Guard and Survival International 2 decades ago showed a Sentinelese man aiming a bow and arrow at a passing helicopter. Oh, well, good thing that the Stone Age, because at least an arrow would not injure a helicopter, right? Unless it's some sort of freak accident. Indian authorities have prosecuted any locals who have aided attempts to enter the island and are trying to identify anyone who may have helped Polyakov. The Andamans are also home to a 400-strong Jarawa tribe, I've never heard of them, who activists say are also threatened by contact from outsiders. Tourists have previously bribed local officials in an attempt to spend time with the Jarawa. See, I get it, people are curious, but it's best to leave well enough alone. That is what Taoism says. We never force ourselves on anyone without at the very least, having first been invited, and then we could even consider it. But then after that, only after that, do we even consider it. But the invitation has to be issued first. Otherwise, it's very much against the Tao. So, to anyone who is thinking of going there, you have been warned. I mean, it's illegal for a reason. The Indian government prohibits it, and frankly, so does Taoism. It's not very natural to force yourself in or invite yourself to someone else's home, is it? This has been your Master GongSun. As usual, keep living in alignment with the Tao. Unlike these poor, curious people, tourists, and missionaries.